Welcome to Fear Coded, a podcast where we talk about media from the horror genre and take a queer reading of a single book, video game, film, podcast, or TV show to explore just how queer horror can be. And in this mini-sode that we're doing to celebrate October, spooky, we're going to be talking about 3 different bites of the internet horror pie, where all 3 of us will bring something to share with the group, just like show and tell. I'm David.
I'm Merrilee.
And I'm Tyler.
And while our dial-up internet modem is screaming for help, I want to check in and say hello with my co-hosts on how things are going for them in our landscape of horrors that the real world has to offer. What's making y'all scared and what's making you feel prepared?
I am prepared.
Yeah.
Tell us why.
It is October. It's soup season.
It is soup
Yes!
season. It is totally soup season.
God,
I
I love
am-
soup.
So excited to eat my weight in soup again.
Mhm.
Some may say that soup is not a summertime food, to which I say nay, but it is definitely enjoyed more in the fall and winter, even in balmy, awful Florida. And I'm so excited to make soup, eat soup, enjoy the smells of soups, and also just get into like soup discourse, because soup discourse is not normally like other internet discourse. It's just more like, what's your favorite kind of soup?
Yeah.
And exchanging recipes.
Yeah, okay, so listen, I have a question for you. When you say soup discourse, my immediate thought is people discussing if something is or isn't a soup. So now I have to ask you, would you consider like chili and stews and like that kind of thing to be a soup or not?
Stews for sure are a soup. Chili, I think the jury is out. It depends on the kind of chili that you're making. So I am a big fan of Cincinnati style chili, which I know not many people are. Merrilee is shaking. I know it's very controversial. I was raised with it though. My family is originally from Ohio, so I enjoy Cincinnati style chili, which for the listeners at home is more of a like a sauce, like a pasta sauce, which is why they put it on pasta and add cheese and onions and crackers and all sorts of other goodness. So I enjoy that. And I make that in a crock pot the same way I make my soups. It's just there's no broth. So
Right.
I would not call it a soup, but it is kind of its own thing that I think is like neighbors to soup.
Interesting. See, I agree that I don't think chili is soup because I think chili is just spicy marinara. I think chili has a lot more to do as a pasta sauce, which is why Cincinnati works, even though I think it's abhorrent. But I understand why it works, because to me, it's just like, would you eat a bowl of marinara? Like, yes, I would. But I don't know where I was going with this. But I wouldn't call it a soup, I guess.
You love marinara. You'll eat that
do
shit
love
with a
marinara.
spoon.
I would.
Again, I say to you, if you ever come to Texas, I will make you chili for real, and it will be fucking delicious.
Now
None
that
of this Cincinnati bullshit.
I am I am like a huge fan of that, of like Texas style chili as well. I will say that all of my chilies are my favorite chilies, but I think I'm just partial to Cincinnati because that's what I grew up with.
Yeah, no,
But
I respect that. I don't love it. I love it for you.
Yeah.
If you try and serve that to me, I will go feral. But like for you, I love it. It's like the tuna casserole thing. You are welcome to it.
So true.
Tyler, settle an Arnold household debate for me.
Okay.
Soup is a meal?
Yes.
Okay. It depends on the kind of soup.
Okay.
I think if you're having kind of like a minestrone, that's not a meal to me.
Okay.
I think that is like, it's what they serve you before the entree at Olive Garden if you go for the soup instead of a salad. But I think it's also not quite full of enough to make it a meal unless you really load up on like the proteins, like the beans.
Okay. Okay.
But I think if you make something heartier, like you could totally have like a very hearty vegetable stew. I think that counts as a meal.
Okay. Follow-up question. Cold soups.
What about them?
How do you feel about them? Not for October, because now we're into, like,
Hot
this
soup.
should be the time that you're eating a warm pumpkin soup. But let me tell you, in July, a cold pumpkin soup is very good.
I have yet to have tried a cold soup. So,
You've never had gazpacho?
nope.
Yeah, we sell gazpacho over here like breakfast cereal is sold in the United States. Like, there's just an aisle of gazpacho.
Oh my god. Well, now I feel like I gotta add that to my list.
Yeah, it's just cold tomato soup. It's not.
Yeah,
I do, but I love tomatoes.
it's
Yeah,
delicious.
well, you would like
one of
it,
my
I
favorite
mean.
things is I love to drink V8, because it's great. But it's just a slightly thicker gazpacho that you're drinking as a beverage, which I'm so into.
Yeah. Oh, should have had a V8.
Oh,
That's what I did just then. That worked really well for an audio podcast. Wow.
Oh,
Well,
David.
soups. You know what, Tyler? That makes me really happy to hear.
good.
I love
Well, how are the
soup.
rest
I
of
love
you
that
feeling?
food.
Are we feeling prepared or scared?
I had an answer all picked out, and then I got like junk in my eye this morning, so I'm like off and on weeping, so a little scared for that. But no, I am truly prepared because you know what I'm doing tomorrow?
What are you doing tomorrow?
I'm getting my ears pierced again.
Where?
Woo!
There's lots of ear to pierce.
Yeah, there's lots of ear. To be clear, I want so many more. But I'm just getting a second lobe piercing. I have two in my left ear, like on the helix. I have a double helix piercing up there. And I truly thought that was gonna be like all of the other piercings I was ever gonna get, because it's such like a sensory thing to have earrings, like when you're on the phone or like have headphones in. It was just always really bothered me. But then I discovered flat back earrings where like it's so much more comfortable to have multiple earrings, and now I would like more pretty metal in my ears, please. Immediately, thank you. And I've been for months putting it off, but now I finally am doing it. I'm doing it, and I cannot wait.
Awesome.
I love that. That makes
That's
me really
so
happy,
cool.
Merrilee.
Yeah, I can't believe I'm gonna get gayer looking. I can't
Gay.
wait.
Just
Hell
the
yeah.
gayest possible. Pierce more. That's what I say.
I will.
I say
I'm
that,
gonna
but
get
I
a
have-
tragus
I have-
at some point because apparently it helps with migraines. Maybe.
Oh.
Wait, what does?
Apparently, like the research in this is not out. It's very anecdotal. Some people say that it helps. Like some doctors are like, no, that wouldn't help. What are you talking about? But apparently, if you get a tragus piercing, like where it is in your ear can help with migraines.
What?
So yeah, as someone who gets migraines like once every like 3 to 5 months, never is better.
So the tragus that's the part that's like the little knob that's in your ear. Like this thing, right?
Yeah.
I think it's either that or you can do it either there, or there's also another place
Okay.
that is the first little, like where the notch is. It's like the first little bend up in the inner ear. Either of those places are good for this.
Yeah. That
Intriguing.
I'm into that for you. I have no piercings.
None?
I have none. I almost got this douchebag eyebrow piercing when I was a teenager because
they look great.
that was the
Yeah.
era. That was the era.
I got
of it.
my septum piercing. I love that.
I know.
Should definitely get
It
some
looks
piercings.
fantastic.
Thank you.
I can't do a nose piercing because I will be afraid that it will fall out when I blow my nose.
No,
but-
it's in there. It's not coming
Oh
out.
my god. Oh,
I love that for you.
it's in there. You know, the guy I hired had a septum piercing, and he would flip it up for the workday, and it was up for like a year. And then one day he forgot to do it, and I was like, "Oh my god, you got your nose pierced." He was like, "Oh no, I've had it up. Please don't fire me." And I was like, "Why? Why would anyone be fired over a piercing?" But I guess during that era of the world, it was more of a concern.
Like only like 10 years ago.
Only
Isn't that crazy?
yeah, just
Yeah,
wild.
because like well, I know like if you work at like a theme park, you definitely can't be showing off your septum piercing.
Really?
Yeah.
Like at Disney or something. Disney only made it
God.
okay that men could have beards like only a couple years ago.
Wow. Well, I know most of those Disney interns are dating girls to try to appear straight, so there were beards all over the place. Listen.
Oh my god. I'm going to change my answer to scared.
No, because I think this is a first. I think we are all three prepared. It's a prepared trio.
David, why
Yeah.
are you prepared?
I'm feeling prepared because I had some really good. I had a really good time this week with friends. Like we did a lot of socializing this week. which could have left me in a space of being scared, but now I don't have any more. So now I just get to bask in the happiness of all of it. We went out to the movies, had our little expat night, had people over for movies and pizza. It has just been a really good time doing really good stuff. So it's been really, really nice getting to know people deeper and learn from them. And in a couple of these groups, we're the token Americans, which is kind of fun.
Wow.
Yeah,
You know,
I love that for you.
I did see the photos that you posted of you with the dad chat, and I'm like, this is the most David-looking group of people I've ever seen. So, it totally fits.
It was funny because as the picture got taken, I was like, wow, I'm like the smallest person in this group, and I'm not like a small dude. Like, I just found all these like big happy dads. I will tell you, we went to the movie theater, and my Spanish is good,
Mm-hmm.
but I still fuck up every once in a while, and I tried to get 2 bottles of water and 1 Grandes popcorn, and I ordered 2 Grandes popcorn, and it was way too much Grandes popcorn.
Oh.
That's a lot of popcorn.
Mucho popcorn.
I tried to eat it all, but I could not. And then on the way home, I was a little like saturated with popcorn.
Yeah,
you would.
Yeah. I was happy though. It was a brand new theater for me too, which was also cool. Now I know I have a better theater to get to because the one that I can easily walk to, kind of a piece of shit. Sorry, Sinus Lease. Apologize to you. But the one I take a bus to, way better. Big theater seats, better popcorn, even when you get 2 Grandes. Way too much.
What is popcorn in Spanish?
Palomitas grandes is what I ordered. But he heard 2 palomitas grandes, which I don't think I said. Anyway, there was also an even bigger bucket, and they do caramel corn in the popper.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
God, I love caramel corn.
You can do half and half too. So
that's perfect.
That's really
this is
good.
what I'm saying. This movie theater is going to change my life.
That's fantastic. I love that for you. I'm thrilled for you.
I got to keep practicing my Spanish in Duolingo so we can move to Spain, because I want to move to a place that has a nice movie theater where you can get 2 Grandes palomitas with caramel and regular popcorn.
And here's the deal. Even fucking up and ordering double popcorn and tickets, the whole thing was a $20 night out.
Oh my God.
Jesus.
Imagine if
brag,
I had done that.
Brag.
Imagine if I had done that in the US. $60, right? Like 2 tickets, 2 popcorns, 2 waters.
Yeah, that's like.
And it was
$60.
liter. It was a liter of water each. That's way too much water also. It was unprepared. If I had drank the whole thing, I would have had to leave to pee so many times. Never would have seen the movie. Just sipped it. I am so happy that the 3 of us are prepared this week.
Because it's a hat trick.
Yeah, hat trick, because we are doing our first mini-sode. So this is a bonus for our October Spooktacular. And today we are talking about internet horror, which often goes under the name Creepypasta. The term is a variant of the term copypasta, which was used in early internet to refer to blocks of text which users would copy and paste, copypasta, in forums and emails, typically as a joke. The function is a text-based version of what today we call memes. Perhaps the most common copypasta that folks have encountered today is the pasting of the entire script of the 2007 film B-Movie, which gets put into forums on a pretty frequent basis.
Classic. So what else happened in 2007? Well, that would be the first online use of the term creepypasta, which was used on the forum 4chan, where users would share blocks of text, but with a horror slant. It caused these stories to go viral and lead to a more ubiquitous use of the term creepypasta in reference to any online horror story.
The most famous of these stories, because of its impact in our real world, the Slender Man, a thin and unnaturally tall humanoid with a featureless white head and face wearing a black suit. Stories of the Slender Man commonly feature his stalking, abducting, or traumatizing people. The Slender Man became a pop culture icon, but in 2014, the lines between fiction and reality blurred after 2 12-year-old girls in Wisconsin held down and stabbed a 12-year-old classmate 19 times. When questioned later by authorities, they reportedly claimed that they wished to commit a murder as a first step to becoming proxies for the Slender Man, having read about it online.
Today, creepypasta stories are authored the way that other amateur work is authored, but these are still amateur works. They're not done by professionals, and that's why they're shared in forums and free online spaces. But the history of this method of horror may be as ancient as storytelling itself. This is just a modern version of campfire stories that are told to excite and scare other. Time Magazine's Jessica Roy documents the use of chain emails to tell these stories in the 1990s and early forum stories like Ted the Caver as the first versions of these stories.
God, Ted the Caver was so spooky.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah. While the genre blossomed on 4chan, today long-standing forums exist specifically for this kind of storytelling, like Creepypasta.com or the No Sleep subreddit.
What are your histories with internet horror in general, and why did you decide to bring this particular piece to the podcast today?
So for me, I probably avoided a lot of this because of how scared I am of everything. But I do remember reading some pretty chilling tales on BBS, Bulletin Board Systems, and other internet forums back in the day.
So as a child of the internet, I spent a lot of time reading TV tropes. They all sort of jumbled together in my mind, which somehow made the fear worse. I think what I did was I went through like the nothing is scarier or some sort of nightmare fuel. I went through the nightmare fuel trope page and I just read about all the horrible nightmare fuel, and then I tried to go to bed that night, and it didn't really work. I remember very vividly descriptions of Smile Dog and just a bunch of people saying, don't click on Smile Dog. And that was it, which somehow made it worse. So I never even saw what Smile Dog looked like until a couple years ago. Very scary, though.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'm not even going to Google this.
Don't Google it, David. You'll have a bad time. I think, honestly, though, kind of like a cool antidote to like the nightmare fuel that was actually like nightmare fuel was the SCP Foundation. SCP's framework made it like kind of more cool than frightening to me. Like there were definitely like a lot of scary things, but I think just like the way that they stylized everything and like the conceit of this being a secret government organization and you're reading the secret reports about them kind of makes it more cool than frightening to me, although there is definitely some scary stuff in there.
For sure. David, you know about the SCP Foundation, right? Or
I don't. I was going to ask you both about this. I was hoping that one of you would use the entire word in your.
It's more of it's an initialism. Okay. So like it's for secure, contain, protect.
Okay.
The basic conceit is that there's this organization that's probably government. I wouldn't say it belongs to any particular government. That their whole deal is containing unnatural stuff, and not just bad stuff. Like some things are like really good, but it has some sort of weird magic attached, so like they won't let people use it.
Yep.
But most of them are creepy because obviously.
Yeah, I would have steered away from that. I would have seen it and been like, no, thank you.
But they catalog everything, and that's kind of like the cool thing about it is that everything is written out like it's a report or it's like a description of something that happened. But they censor some elements of the text. So there are big black bars over descriptions of things that leave it up to your imagination, which makes it much scarier. The Remedy's control is like noted by like Remedy themselves as being inspired by SCP Foundation. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Merrilee, what do you know about the internet horror and how did it affect you?
Yeah, I like knowing stuff. I know that this is a big surprise. But so when I heard about, these online internet stories that are basically like campfire stuff, I obviously was obsessed immediately. And so like I read a bunch of them. Like I was really into Slenderman before 2014, obviously. And it's just, God, it's not even funny. I watched so much Marble Hornets, Everyman Hybrid, like all of that stuff. Like the Caver stories, Ben Drowned, all of that nonsense. Just I loved exploring some of this stuff. And then later on, I had a friend who was a voice actor for the No Sleep podcast, so I listened to a lot of that, obviously. Just little bits of stuff. I thought it was fun. I took a little deep dive, and I haven't really explored the space in years, but honestly, after this, I might.
Can I tell you like a quick aside about Slenderman,
Yeah,
though?
of course, please.
Remember when Slenderman, the pages or the letters or whatever it was, came out?
Yeah.
And everyone would have like copies of the letters that they actually like created and posted it to Tumblr. So I had a friend in college that was also into like kind of creepypasta internet stuff. And we were just like, what if we just recreate the Slenderman pages and then paste them around campus and let people find them? And we did. And it was a really bad idea because if you had done that today, you probably would have gotten like in mega trouble. But at the time, like we just saw people posting about it on like the school's like hashtag on Tumblr, and it was like, we did this.
Wow,
that's so
I would
fun.
highly recommend
Oh my God.
not doing that now, though, because if you do something like that and you get found out, you'll probably get in like mega trouble.
That is incredible. I wasn't there for the moment. I don't understand the appeal of Slenderman. It's that he's tall, it's skinny.
No, so
Eat a cheeseburger, man. Like
we're gonna do a whole episode of Slenderman at this
Okay,
point. So
great. Great. You just let me know when. I need to finally engage with this stuff.
Oh my God.
Normally this is the point in time when that we would talk about, is this queer? This is a bonus episode, so we're not doing our normal format. But I do want to call attention that I don't think that this type of storytelling is uniquely queer. In fact, the entry that I have brought is like obnoxiously heterosexual, but whatever. But I do think that amateur art is more accessible for marginalized creators. And so I do think that it is likely that if I was a huge connoisseur of this, I might find more queer writings in this space than what eked its way out and made its way onto my desktop in the late 2000s.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, entirely probable.
But then, of course, like we will go out of our way to find anything that could be queer in our works, which extends to creepypastas. So even something as obnoxiously heterosexual as what you've picked today, I'm sure we can discover something queer-esque.
I've said it before. I will say it again. Anything is queer if you try hard and believe in yourself. So jot that down.
Hell yeah.
Listen, Merrilee, we're going to try, but I was like, wow, everyone is heterosexual and married to their high school sweethearts. Like, this is some Harry Potter nonsense going on here. It's just the most boring version of heterosexuality that has ever been or will ever be.
Well, David, why don't you tell us a little bit more about what you brought in today?
Yeah, so I picked the Dionaea house. I first read it sometime around 2008, 2010, and I remembered it very, very well after all of this time because I just thought it was a very good story. The story is told through a series of online collected web pages, and a lot of these are offline. So if you really want to experience the full Dionaea house story, we have put a link into the episode description to archive.org. And a big shout out to archive.org, a nonprofit organization that does amazing work backing up not just internet web pages, which you might know them for from the Wayback Machine, but also tons of great media. I don't think we talked about this when we did our Twilight Zone episode, but we could have watched the Twilight Zone on archive.org because they hold a lot of great reference texts and TV shows from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. But if you want to get just a sense of the story, a lot of the text was copied over into the Creepypasta wiki, but this might only just get you more excited to read the actual thing itself. So, quick overview. It is a virally spread internet story told from 2004 to 2006 by screenwriter Eric Heisserer. The Dionaea house consists of several stories told in various formats. The first story, called Correspondence from Mark Condry, takes place in September to October 2004. It begins when Mark emails his friend Eric about their mutual childhood friend Andrew. The story is told through an archive of sent emails from Mark to Eric, each on a separate webpage that you had to click next to read. It becomes very tense towards the end. Mark's investigation begins after seeing an article that their childhood friend Andrew, who lived in Houston, recently went into a diner and shot John and Lucy Madsen in Boise, Idaho, muttering, "The door is open." The whole thing is really eating at Mark, and he talks about Andrew and how something about their childhood always bothered him. He had to house sit at a different house for 2 weeks, and he came back from that house different. Mark ends up going to Houston to find Andrew's family and finds out about the home that his stepfather rented that his friend had to house sit. Mark goes to the house, and it's just a nondescript one-story home. But no one's there. He asks a neighbor about who lived there, and the neighbor says that before it was Andrew's stepfather, it was a couple, John and Lucy Madsen. Mark ends up going to Boise, where he talks to the police who give him Andrew's wallet, and this tells Mark about the rental home that he had been staying at in Boise. Mark goes to the home, and it's the same house, the exact same house as the one he saw in Houston. He finds a way into the house, sending quick, short emails from his phone. He goes up the stairs, finding some of Andrew's things, seeing a large metal door and hearing what sounds like someone else. His final message reads, "The door is open." And that's the end of the first chapter.
What?
Oh,
Oh no.
The author of the emails on the webpage changes. It's still being sent from Mark's address, but it changes to his girlfriend, Jen, who got Mark's laptop from the Boise police after he left it in a motel. Mark has been missing for over a week. This chapter of the story ends with an anonymous email reaching Jen, which describes human remains that appeared on the street outside a nondescript home in Scottsdale, Arizona.
No.
2 weeks later, a postscript message is posted to the website with Eric detailing his next steps towards following up on Mark's disappearance. This serves as a sort of chapter select screen for the rest of the story.
Ooh.
The second chapter is a live journal called Adventures in Babysitting. It's a blog that takes place in October 2004. In it, 16-year-old Danielle Stevens tells about her new job babysitting an 8-year-old girl named Linny. The story is told real time using the built-in date system on LiveJournal that was not gamed at the time. So you couldn't post entries in the past or even in the future. So the author had to be doing this live. The author, the author acting as Danielle, had taken on a babysitting job to save up money for Christmas. Her employers, the Ellisons, had just moved here from Chicago, and they're working overtime, 5 to 10, and they need help on the weekdays. One night, while babysitting, Danielle finds a set of keys with a grocery store membership card, and she does a little investigation on her own, her little Nancy Drew, and finds out that the keys belonged to Mark Condry. The second week of babysitting, things really start getting weird. While giving Linny a bath, a string comes out of the faucet and wraps itself around Linny's leg.
What?
Danielle is me, and good for her. She says, "I quit. I'm not in this anymore." But the Ellisons beg her for one more night. And the final diary entries that are posted to the LiveJournal are a nursery rhyme ending with Red Rover, send Jenny on over, and a link labeled Found You that points to Jen's blog that she created to follow her friend Eric.
What?
And that takes us to the third chapter, A Quiet Space, Eric's blog. It covers the exact same time period as Danielle's, which means that the author had to be updating a blog spot and a LiveJournal at the same time to build this narrative.
Oh my God.
Eric theorizes that the houses all share a same space and same time, and that the house can do one of two things: digest you or empty you to make you a puppet to enact its will and lure others into the house. Eric further speculates that Andrew had been made a puppet after his 2-week stay at the Houston house, and John and Lucy Madsen had escaped the house, and the hollowed-out Andrew had been sent to find and kill them, and that is why he shot them in a diner in Boise. In the final entry, Eric discusses going in with a friend to the house. In the comments, Jen posts frantic comments to get Eric to pick up his phone, only to get a response from Danielle, which reads, "The boys are all inside now. Come and find us. The door is open." The updates page, of course, is no longer being written by Eric and instead shifts to his girlfriend, Connie. His girlfriend has provided us the last updates 1 year later and the last links to the fourth and final chapter, the blog of Laureen Mathers, told from August 2005 to January 2006. It starts off with Laureen telling us that she got back from 9 months in a mental institution after she murdered a man in self-defense in Salt Lake City and told a courtroom all about the houses and what they do to people. But when a man named Mark Condry tried to reach her regarding her testimony, Laureen discovered that everything she said had been wiped from existence, so she uses this blog to tell the truth that she learned. She had moved into the Boise house in college, you see, but she found it weird and unusual, and eventually she tried to get into the house's attic. Finally, buying an axe and just tearing her way into the attic. But when she took the axe to the ceiling of the house, blood poured onto her. She freaked out, tried to leave, but the door wouldn't open. She threw a chair against a window, but she couldn't get out. Finally, in desperation, she grabbed a kitchen knife and ran towards the window, and the house ejected her. And that is when the man started to stalk her, and eventually she had to kill him. Lorraine's final entry hints at a larger conspiracy from the original designer, Jared Lewis, and his followers, but that is the end of the story. And part of why this story may have fallen apart a little from here is that the writer had sold the story to Warner Brothers to create a feature film. However, it was stuck in development hell. We got no updates on this webpage, nor did the movie get made. But we have to say there's some good news for the author Eric Heisserer. This put him on people's radars. He got a lot of writing gigs, and he is responsible for writing some truly tremendous films and television. He is the writer of The Hours, The Arrival, Netflix's Bird Box, and he created Netflix's Shadow and Bone. And that is the Dionaea House, a story that has stuck with me from when someone first shared it to me over 15 years ago.
Wow.
Oh my God, that's scary as fuck.
Yeah, that was great. I really like that. Though just a quick note, because I'm a pedant and I can't help myself, both Bird Box and Shadow and Bone were adaptations of books. So he more like adapted those instead of creating them. Just throwing it out there so that we don't get emails. But
clearly emails are bad news. We do not want emails.
Generally, we don't want to be found. However, we do want some specifically right now. But other than that.
Oh, man, that was spooky, David.
That was so good. I really like that.
Yeah. If you want to experience it, I do recommend doing it on the Internet Archive, because it is just like the experience of doing it. Like, you go to a blog, you got to scroll to the bottom and scroll your way back up. The emails taking one at a time to load, especially when, and the author actually comes in and is like, Mark had a really sophisticated phone that was able to send emails by texting them, because this is so rooted in its time that, like, we didn't have text messaging then.
Wow. Oh man, spooky as fuck.
Yeah.
That was
so
so cool.
For the house eating them. That's so good. I love it when houses eat people.
Yeah.
Me too.
Well, and I just thought when we had this assignment, this was sort of the quintessential, like, text-based narrative that used the internet itself to be able to do something. And that was what was so important for me when considering this medium.
God, that's so good. That's so smart. I love that.
Oh man, awesome. That was so cool.
Yeah, David, that was such a great pull. I had never even heard of that, and I'm obsessed with it. That was delightful.
I think we can all relate as queer people towards the idea of being trapped in a location that wants to. The house is heterosexual ideology, and you know what, I'm struggling. You're right, David.
This one's hard. It's hard
no, I think you're onto something. So it's like the queer person is trapped in an environment that's hostile towards you and either wants to make you disappear or hollow you out and transform you into a version of itself, i.e. heterosexuality. You're cooking with gas, man. I get it. I get the vision.
I turned on the engine, but like, Merrilee, you just drove us. Like, that was great. I love that.
I do wish it was more textual, to the point that even, like, the 16-year-old babysitter is like, I have a crush on a boy, which is great. Awesome. Great for her. And she's written very well, but, like, have a crush on a girl. That's all I'm asking for. Yeah. Like, be flexible.
It's not on the page, but she has a toxic best friend situationship that if she lived in 20 years, she would have realized, oh my God, I had a crush on her the whole time and I didn't know about it. And that's why we had such a codependent relationship. And then when we stopped being friends, it felt like a breakup, like the biggest breakup I ever in my whole life. So again, it's not in the page, but I'm telling you that's the truth.
It all makes sense to me.
There's a part of all of this that sort of is, it's sort of weaved throughout the narrative, and it's hard for me to describe in the sort of like retelling, but the very nature of this story being available online is a lure, I think, to the curiosity of people who might search for something like this. So to listeners, just know that you don't know where I've been, or if somebody may have hollowed me out. And really, the whole podcast is just me trying to get you to explore single story houses that have an upstairs that lures you to your death. There you go. Think about that.
Yeah.
Think about
Have
that.
fun, urban explorers.
Think about that.
Well, I feel like that provides like a nice segue to my series of rooms that try to eat you.
Yeah, Tyler, what did you bring? What did you bring for us?
I have brought in the Backrooms. I don't really have a similar narrative to David, but instead I wanted to talk a little bit about the Backrooms themselves and how they've kind of melted into our pop culture. For the uninitiated, the Backrooms is a liminal space of endless hallways and rooms. Often these rooms are a series of faded yellow hallways, but include other spaces as well. There's pool rooms, which are kind of like a sort of like 80s like kind of design, looks very fanciful and beautiful, and but there's also like old playgrounds and like apartment buildings that are split in two, so you have to jump from one to get to the other side. Just it really kind of runs the gamut, because the whole idea of this is that it's infinite, so there are an infinite number of possibilities for how the Backrooms can be made manifest. The Backrooms themselves are a collaborative multimedia project created by and living on the internet. Cool. The internet has really kind of taken this and turned it into its own creation that has now become widespread in text, in video form. It's going to become a movie soon. There's a lot going on here. So I'll give like a little bit of background as to how the Backrooms first began. Originally, there was a post on 4chan asking for unsettling images of various places. Someone included the very famous image of the Backrooms, which is the yellow hallways with walls that are kind of like uneven and sort of obscuring whatever goes beyond what's present there. Eventually, someone took that image and tied text to it, which I will now read aloud. Again, this comes from 4chan, so God help you if you go into 4chan, but sometimes you find little pieces of gold like this. So the description reads, quote, "If you're not careful and you no-clip out of reality in the wrong areas, you'll end up in the Backrooms, where it's nothing but the stink of old moist carpet, the madness of mono yellow, the endless background noise of fluorescent lights at maximum hum buzz, and approximately 600 million square miles of randomly segmented empty rooms to be trapped in. God save you if you hear something wandering around nearby, because it sure as hell has heard you." That was written by an anonymous user on 4chan. So again, this is kind of like baked into the internet from like the initial description. The idea of something no clipping, to me, and David, you might have a better definition of this, is a way to cheat a video game to allow you to move through solid objects in space. The idea is that something has happened to you that allows you to pass through this reality and then into the Backrooms, or essentially no clipping through reality. Does that sound about right, David, for a description?
It's
of what
100%
no
right. Clipping is an idea that there are things that will hold you in a 3D space. And so a no clip would be that the parameters weren't set correctly and you go into a space you're not meant to go into. So the idea, it is an error in programming.
Right, and so this takes that conceit of there being an error in programming, and now it's saying there's an error in reality. So Dr. Emily Zarka, from her Monstrum series on YouTube, which is in a part of a series that's officially or produced by PBS, so it's pretty legit, notes that the Backrooms actually exploded in popularity with the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. Our media was inundated with images of empty places that used to be full of life, giving off a very eerie, uncanny perspective on things that seem familiar but are now defamiliarized. when you go into the Backrooms, you are surrounded by things that are familiar, but they have been made unfamiliar. And I think that I'm going to kind of get back to this and develop it a little bit more, but I think that is part of it's like a manifestation of the crises that we are in right now, where things that should be functioning normally are ceasing to function normally. And so we're in kind of a scary space. But again, I'll get to that in a moment. Kane Parsons, whose online name is Kane Pixels, posted his Backrooms video on YouTube. This was done in an analog style, so it looked like someone had recorded their experiences in the Backrooms on an old VHS camcorder, giving it that very pixelated, grainy aesthetic. This ended up becoming a huge success and led to him getting a deal with A24 to make a Backrooms movie.
Cool.
Good for him.
Yeah, I know. Good for him. But he's also like 17 when that happened, like 17, 18. So even more impressive, but also like I really hope someone is there to help him out and watch over him, because making a movie is insane, and putting that onto a 17, 18-year-old is really rough. So the genres that we typically apply the Backrooms to are liminal horror is one genre. This is surreal horror derived from being in a place both familiar and unfamiliar. It is a cross between what is real and unreal. This seems a bit wholly modern, the idea of there being liminal spaces where you can cross over into somewhere else where the rules don't apply, but this is actually something that is very well documented in our literature. We have fairy stories from medieval Europe where, for instance, you might step into a fairy circle and then you're whisked off by the fairies. There's lots of medieval literature that describes knights or other people either having to go on a mission to go into the fairy world to rescue someone or save something. But then there's also stories about fairies rescuing knights, or knights being bewitched by fairies and tricked into going into the fairy world. But either way, the rules when fairies are involved no longer apply. The idea that a knight has to be very masculine and saves the day, that can be thrown out the window, because you could have a fairy queen who is dressed in beautiful gallant armor on a horse, and she is the one rescuing the knight. We also have examples of things like Alice in Wonderland, where the protagonist is transported into a world where, again, the rules don't apply. Things are familiar, but they are been turned unfamiliar. The Mad Hatter is someone that Alice could have run into in real life as a person who was actually a hatter and manufactured hats for people, but instead she sees that this person has been changed in some way. Now he's mad. This applies, I think, to the Backrooms because you're going into a place where there's walls and rooms and buildings that are very familiar to what you might see today. To me, whenever I look at a very famous image of the Backrooms where it's the yellow fluorescent lighting and everything seems kind of old and dingy, but familiar, because to me that feels like an empty like hotel or an empty convention space or an old shopping mall. The actual photo of the Backrooms that is really famous was identified, I think, earlier this year as having been being in a whole old Hobby Lobby, like in the early 2000s, which has since been destroyed and turned into a go-kart place, I think. But either way, like, this is a place where you have memories associated with the physical space, and now they have been turned back on you, and that's really frightening. To me, I think that's frightening enough on its own, but we also have creatures that the original post describes as living in the Backrooms. They have surely heard you if you have heard them. This is, of course, conjuring to mind images of the Minotaur. The Labyrinth was a place where someone would go and they would be trapped in there and then eventually eaten by the Minotaur, never finding their way out. This concept also applies to the Backrooms because you are essentially trapped in there with no real escape. Meanwhile, there are creatures of some cosmic horror or something that is just totally alien to the human mind that are stalking the protagonist, and you never really get a good glimpse of them until it's too late. Labyrinths exist also outside of Greek mythology. There's a lot of popularity of them being used like in religious circumstances, but also in literature. We have examples of labyrinths in the television show Twin Peaks. The Red Room, the Black Lodge, is essentially a labyrinth that Agent Cooper cannot escape from. House of Leaves by Mark Danielewski, I believe is how his name is pronounced. figures a literal labyrinth with a potential minotaur that may or may not exist. And now we also have the Backrooms. I think the Backrooms are really fascinating as a cultural product from the internet, because the internet is essentially a labyrinth now.
Yeah.
We get trapped in there. We don't know who is saying the right things. We can't trust what we see anymore because of the horrible scourge of AI imagery. We have people lying to us and deceiving us, and there's no semblance of what truth is anymore. And so we're perpetually having to look for truth. Meanwhile, this presence is stalking us, and that presence can be anything from feelings of insecurity because you see people on Instagram posting about how great their life is, which causes a lot of envy in people, a lot of stress. But then you also have people that are trolls or political agents that are trying to trick you and make you make the wrong choices for your own self-worth or for the betterment of society. And I think that anxiety is something that Gen Z in particular is really familiar with because they grew up with that. That's really kind of the only world they've ever known. And so the Backrooms being so popular, especially in places like TikTok, I think is a manifestation of that anxiety, because people don't know what the hell they're doing anymore, and or how to
Did we ever? Sorry.
I mean, that's true. That's a very good point. Like, did we ever really know? That's kind of been man's search for meaning for his entire life, is what the fuck is the purpose of being here. But I think the Backrooms is a metaphor for that search and how convoluted it now feels. I also think it's really cool because it's something that is user created. Any one of us can create lore for the Backrooms because it's an infinite realm of possibilities. And so we can apply our own values, our own ideas of what is cool, what isn't cool, what's scary, what isn't scary, what is plaguing us and what isn't, and apply that to this space. And I think that is really awesome. I think it's kind of like the next step for Creepypasta is for people to be able to do that, because I think Slenderman was kind of the first iteration of that, where people were making up new rules for how he worked, and eventually became kind of codified and was connected to other things in the Creepypasta scene. But the Backrooms feels like its own space where rules are thrown out the window, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I'm looking through some of these on the link you provided, Tyler, and it does seem like an overarching thesis is that there's a man-created space that is disused, right? Like, it just seems like because of its disuse, it has fallen into this other dimension that's on the other side of the reality that we're in, and a mistake is what could catapult you into it, and then only through another mistake could you possibly leave.
Exactly.
Yeah. I unfortunately spent quite a lot of time on TikTok, and there is a whole series of like a genre of videos that aren't technically Backrooms, but kind of are, where the idea is, I'm pretty sure that these are fake, but it's whatever. The idea is that there are people who are urban exploring and will continue on and find like this whole other huge place that's connected to the place where they were originally. Like, the idea was, one of them that I saw was like they were exploring an abandoned mall, and like you could get through, and like then they're in a bunch of a whole other area of this mall they had no idea about, which like connected to tunnel, like, you know how it is. And just the amount of those that I see, not a huge, but I've seen more than 10 of them with like this own micro genre just on TikTok. It's really fun.
Yeah. And I think like the idea of urban exploring is also getting a lot more popular in places like TikTok and YouTube, because there's so many disused buildings in existence now, especially in North America. We're kind of going to these places because they're connected to memories of our childhood, or just a better time in our lives, or at least a different time in our lives. And so there's a search for nostalgia in those places. Whenever I look at the Backrooms, to me, like the iconic like yellow wallpaper kind of deal, which you could also apply the yellow wallpaper short story to this, but I feel really nostalgic when I'm in there. Like, not saying that I'm like physically in that space, but when I'm navigating through it like in a video or in a video game or what have you. There's something about it that makes me feel like a little bit of sorrow for a place that I can never go back to. I'm reminded of a photo that I saw of, it looked like an empty ballroom or convention center where there was a Pepsi machine, or like an old hot dog or like an old hot dog stand, and people apply those to being like save points in the back rooms. But I connect those to memories of when I was a kid, and I would go to like places that had like big events going on, like if I got pulled to a wedding when I was a child, or when I went to go see a movie, and I would see, you know, it was the end of the night and people had gone, and I would see like this vending machine, and for some reason it just feels very comforting to me. And then so I think there's another aspect to it too, of the desire to return home, but you cannot go home. Like you can never truly go back to that time. And I think that's part of the melancholy that also goes along with the horror, which I think is what keeps it, like why it keeps on having like this lasting power over us, and why we find it so interesting. There is again that unreal and real like crossover, but I think at the end of the day it kind of makes us forlorn and miss that time in our lives that we can never go back to, and it's just kind of lost in this ether, this unreality.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, this is a fun concept. It's giving, I don't know, some of these pictures are very calming, but they, by their very nature, do represent kind of death. Like there's nothing living in these, that because of the disuse of all of this. That's the kind of point of this. And it reminds me that like when we admire ruins, they really are dead places where people lived or worked or were part of communities, and we sort of forget about that because it's been hundreds of years. But like there's a beautiful picture of some stone stairs in a like lush forest that is part of all of this, but that itself is also...
that's its own thing. That's a fun other creepypasta, by the way.
Yeah, I really like the phrase "the past is a foreign country." I think a lot of people associate the past as being a place where people were unenlightened and ignorant to like how we should behave now. Like they were hanging people and putting their heads on bridges and you know, Tudor England and all this other stuff. And it's just like, yes, but like those were still people that had human desires and pain and suffering, but also a lot of joy that we experience today. And in that same way, their customs might be different, or what we perceive as being morally repugnant, but they're still human beings that lived and breathed and ate food and had friends and family, and they would hang out on Friday nights and they would enjoy each other's company. And I feel like that pain and suffering is something that connects all of us as much as the joy does. And so when I look at the Backrooms, the yellow environment feels scary, but also nostalgic. The pool rooms, like I mentioned before, is another place that exists in the Backrooms. Typically when those are depicted, like in YouTube videos, there's usually some very calming, like ambient music to go along with them. And it looks like, I think like the best description of it would be what the 90s envisioned as like a really chill environment. Like it feels very Enya-esque, or like being in that place or seeing what's there, just because there's pools and it's normally like cool like water sounds, but then also there's like some shadowy areas, which kind of conjures up that feeling of anxiety that you would feel as a kid when you go in a pool and there was a shadowy part of the pool, because it's just like maybe there's a shark over there, you know. And so it plays on those parts of our brains that remember that time. And I find that a really fascinating commentary on where we are as a society and why it's so popular in the zeitgeist today. And I think it's cool. Rooted in nostalgia.
I love that.
Yeah. Merrilee, I'm so excited to hear about your thing.
Yeah.
This video was crazy.
This one was wild, Merrilee.
So unlike David and Tyler specifically were like, don't look it up, we'll talk about it. And then I was like, oh boy, I picked a YouTube video, so you have to watch it. You have to watch this in order for any of this to make sense. I could have maybe switched it to like a different thing, so it's all like this storytelling element, but I really thought this was fun, and thank you guys for going with me on this one.
Yeah.
So the thing that I brought today is No Through Road, which is a short YouTube horror movie which was uploaded in 2009 by user IndranCole3, aka Stephen Chamberlain, who wrote, directed, and starred in it along with 4 friends. It has a Wikipedia and an IMDb page, which I learned about during the research for this. Like, during making these notes, I discovered that. Isn't learning fun?
Learning is so fun.
Yeah. There are 3 follow-ups on YouTube, which I did know about, but are not going to be covering. And a full motion picture using this as inspiration, which I had no idea about at all.
Wait, the motion picture is done? Like, there is one that is out there in the world?
In 2020, I think. Like, it's not by Stephen Chamberlain, it's by a whole other thing, but like the director specifically cited this as the inspiration for the film.
Cool. Wow.
Yeah. I had no idea how deeply influential this was. I picked No Through Road because I remember watching it on Tumblr in like 2009, 2010, and thinking it was deeply brilliant. And also very short. So I thought it would be appropriate for an episode like this. I really do recommend it. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, please go watch it. It's on YouTube. It's about 9 minutes long, super short, a little breezy, little video. And it's really good, guys.
Breezy? I don't know that I would give you breezy as the adverb on this one.
Fair enough.
It was quick.
It does
it was
involve
quick.
The murder of 4 teenagers.
Yeah, it was quick, but it wasn't refreshing the way a breeze might be.
Yeah, it's a chilly breeze as
Chilly.
you're walking home. Like, it's dark and it's getting cold and you have to get home very soon. That kind of breeze.
Yeah, that kind, the bad kind.
Yeah. So, in classic found footage format, the video starts with a disclaimer that 4 teenagers were found dead in their car, and with this footage, that's being released with consent of the families by the police unedited in hopes that they can find leads from the public into the crime. So it starts with 4 English teenagers who are on the road in the middle of the night, driving around for no particular reason, as you do. I definitely drove around places in the middle of the night. I don't drive, so I wasn't in the driver's seat, but I was one of the teens in the back, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys. Do you ever, like...
Oh, yeah, I definitely did this with friends. I did this alone. I mean, I grew up on a farm, so, like, I've been...
Oh, that's right, you did grow up on a farm. This would be very familiar to you.
Oh, yeah. And even seeing signs twice, but not in a scary way, just in a, like, getting lost way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they're driving around for no particular reason, as you do. At one point, the footage cuts to an earlier time where the teen with the camera is playing guitar. This kind of thing happens throughout the footage. It's just like a fun little start here, and then you'll kind of track it as it go along. They take a wrong turn and end up for a sign for Broomhill Farm, where their bodies will later be found, and a giant brick archway with a second sign saying No Through Road. The teens drive through the arch before reversing and trying to go another way. They drive through the darkness with one of the teens turning off the headlights for a moment and joking, "What if there was a man standing in the road?" When the lights came back on, and the main teen does not think that that's very funny and says not to do it again. They come across a sign for Bennington one way and Walton another, neither of which is where they want to go, and so they decide to head left towards Bennington. An hour later, they're still on the dark road with no lights. Earlier they mentioned it's around 4 a.m. when they get to like the Bennington side. This is about an hour later. Their GPS isn't working, and neither are their phones. They take a pee break. They discover a dead rabbit on the road. One of the boys, the driver, strokes it with his shoe, and then the camera glitches, but this time forward to like screaming bloody murder before it goes back. Later, when all the boys are in the car, one of them goes into the road to look and see if there are any lights in the distance. Instead, he hurries back into the car, telling the driver to go, go, go. He didn't see any lights, but he did see a masked man in the field.
Spooky.
They keep driving.
Oh, it was so scary. It was so scary.
Spooky. They keep driving. All of them talk about how familiar the road is. I think they say it's been like 2 or 3 hours at this point. Before coming back to that same Bennington/Walton sign again. They make a choice I wouldn't have made, but what are you going to do? Where they go towards Bennington again. 3 hours later, they are once again at the same sign. This time they head towards Walton. They try to turn on the radio, but the only thing playing is a deeply eerie audio that, like, as it goes longer, starts with screams. So they cut that off, and they're back in silence. Eventually, they see lights, another car, even a sign for like where they're going home. When their headlights cut out again, when they're turned back on, they are once again in front of that brick archway. They try to leave, but the car won't start. And then the lights turn back off. The driver's like, I'm not doing this. They turn, when the lights go back on, the radio starts blaring, and there is a man with a mask standing in the middle of the arch. As he walks towards the boys, they all start screaming, obviously. Just to cut things short, he brutally murders all of them, with the cameraman having a deeply horrible and brutal fate as he is beaten to death slowly with the camera, giving us a POV shot of the whole thing. Yikes!
This was fucked. This was pretty scary. This was pretty scary, Merrilee.
Yeah.
I did not. Yeah. I was scared.
It was. I'm glad it held up because I hadn't watched I've thought about it off and on since when I watched it in like 2009 or 10. But I hadn't watched it since. So I remember when we were talking about it last time when I was telling you please to watch it, I was afraid that I was like overhyping it, that it was going to be bad. No, it's really good, guys.
Yeah. I loved the cuts between like shots of them in the past, like all hanging out and being like a bunch of lads, and then the screaming, and then the bloody murder. Like that was really good. That was quite eerie.
And the story that told to me was almost that this was like a tape over a tape, and there were things that were maybe too psychically grotesque that just never made it onto the recording, and so you were stuck with some previous air of the tape before. That was sort of my interpretation of that.
That's a good way to think of it.
I like love that. That's just so smart. The Wikipedia page for, which again, this has, said that, it lists like them going like back to the Bennington side and stuff as like time jumps. Like they were being, and I always thought of it more as like a liminal space kind of deal. Like maybe this gets expounded on in like the 3 sequel videos, which again, I never really watched. As soon as I saw that there was a second one, I kind of thought, that's really lame. The whole point is that it was just this footage for this place, and I wasn't ever really interested. Maybe I'll go give them a watch, and maybe like the time thing is explored later on. But to me, it was the idea that you like got on the no-through road, and then there was no escape, and then you're just wandering around in the no-through roadiness of it all.
Yeah, I like the idea of it being kind of like, it felt like a Twilight Zone story in a way, which we just talked about, and it felt like that interconnectedness between like what is the light and what is dark. But I find that interesting too about it being your interpretation of it is that it's a liminal space. If I was not aware that there were sequels, then I would have also thought that as well. I think that kind of makes it more interesting, in my opinion,
Mm.
than it being sort of like a time loop sort of thing that they're stuck in. But I have not seen the sequels either, so I could be talking out of my ass. But to me, I think this kind of makes it more interesting. And then there's this masked figure. It's almost kind of like the creature, the Minotaur that's in the Backrooms, that's there to stalk you because you're in a place where you shouldn't be.
Yeah, I really like also, I mean, it was artistically made. I do think, like, giving credit where it's due, like, we are doing the found footage thing very well. You have to almost presume that these, like, lads found a dead rabbit and we're like, let's shoot a movie about this dead rabbit. Like, you almost would have had to have had that. They would have had to have found these signs. This is not a high production thing. So when you think about something like Blair Witch, which was very produced, like, it was made as a scripted show, it was just sold to you as unscripted. This has a lot more of a vibe of found footage than I think something that was highly produced, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah. I completely believe that this was made by a bunch of teenagers with no money. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Which
100%.
is, that's, like, Creepypasta is meant to be amateur art. Like, it's not meant to be highly produced art. And so it's, like, a really good fit for the brief, too. Like, this is a Creepypasta.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I really loved it. I also, again, when I talk about how influential it is, I'm not kidding. Like, I read the whole Wikipedia page, and they have a whole section on, like, references in art. So again, not only is there a movie that is using this as a base concept, which I am very excited to watch at some point. I did read the Wikipedia page that described the plot, so I know what I'm going to get into, but they also, in it, talk about a scene from Grave Encounters 2. Are either of you guys familiar with the Grave Encounters franchise?
Yes.
No.
I have not seen them because I heard they're scary as fuck, and I don't think I could do that.
Yes.
Which means
They're very
David
scary.
could not do it.
I can do it.
You can't hit these things with bats, David.
I have.
You certainly cannot hit them with bats.
I have a giant,
oh my god, look at the size of that thing!
I have a giant squishmallow that I can just hold and it will protect me.
Oh,
That's what I'm gonna do.
It will.
It's, so Grave Encounters is a franchise. The first one is kind of like a ghost show parody. The idea is, like, you have this group of people who go into this haunted asylum, and they all think it's fake. Like, at one point in the very beginning, like, they have footage of them bribing a groundskeeper to talk about how haunted this place is. So, like, they clearly none of that is real, but then they go in and it's like, uh-oh, this one's real, and then with real ghosts, and, like, it all devolves from there. In the second film, the director cites No Through Road as an inspiration because someone gets killed with the camera in a very similar manner to how the main guy is killed in this one, and he, like, specifically cites it as his inspiration. And when I saw Grave Encounters, I was reminded of this. I had no idea that, like, it was specifically a reference to No Through Road, which I thought was very interesting and fun to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a strong technique. It was well done. I mean, you can tell that it was like a shattered lens put on front of an actual lens in order to create the effect, and then just either a zooming or a physical, like, movement, which I guess that would be a dolly. That would just be a hand dolly. Like I get how it's made, but it doesn't make it any less terrifying and impactful. And again, I just think, like, what we're celebrating this episode are these, like, low tech and amateur steps into creating horror, and that was such a cool entry to include as part of this.
For sure.
Yeah, I'm really glad you guys liked it. I was really, truly worried it was going to be bad.
No, not at all. It was great. Very spooky. It made me want to learn more about this world, but I'm going to pretend the sequels aren't a thing. And just kind of like,
listen, I will watch the sequels and report back.
I mean, I'm saying that I feel like I'm being unfair. I'll admit I'm being unfair because I don't know what the quality of the sequels are because I haven't seen them. But I just love this concept that it's a very strange environment that they have fallen into, and I like the idea of, like, boom, that's the way it ends is the way it ends, and there's no more.
That's why when I first watched it, that's how I felt. I was very strongly felt like that was it, and so the idea of sequels really bothered me, which is why I never touched them in the time between when they came out and now. But I've grown as a person, and I'm ready to like. I've this ending has sat with me long enough. I'm ready to see what else is out there. But
you're like that meme of the girl who's gonna be okay, but it's the girl that's ready for the sequels.
Ready for more.
Yeah, that's me, baby.
I also do. I think, we did a little bit of yoga here on pod earlier to try to justify a queer reading, but I do think that there is something to be explored with the three of us all picking stories that are about being trapped somewhere other. Because we all did unadvised from one another. We knew we were each picking something, and we shared the names, and we watched Merrilee's, but like this was sort of a surprise episode for all of us to talk through. And I do think it's kind of fun that the creepypastas that we chose were all about sort of being trapped. And I wonder if a thing queer people just are afraid of is being trapped.
Well, gosh, I can't imagine why.
Whether that's the liminal space of the Backrooms, or a house trying to eat you, or a dark but not starlit night, which I think is a very specific type of spooky darkness.
Yeah, for sure.
I think also, like, kind of addressing that, we have something where it's very clearly heterosexual with the Dionaea house. A creepypasta that does not have any human characters to really speak of with the Backrooms, and then a short movie that's only boys. And
listen, if we're gonna talk about queerness, there is a moment where like the guy who's like out in front of the car is like looking for the lights, like the boys in the car joke about how fit their friend is and like look at his butt, and like it's clearly in that joking way, but you know what, I'm just saying, they're teenage boys. Who knows? I think maybe someone's not as much joking.
I think the gathering of boys and men and kind of like fixating on like fake flirting, I think it shows a lot more queerness that's present in that community than they might recognize or choose to recognize or whatever. Or maybe I'm just, recognizing it for them, I guess. But, to me, I think like the fact that there's no women in No Through Roads means that there's no like final girl, there's no real opportunity for something sexist to happen. No one's going to call her something denigrating and then she gets killed because of some sort of moral failing on her part. Instead, it's a bunch of boys that normally would be considered safe, but they end up being victimized by a masked killer, which is so often what happens to women. And I think also, I think that's a little queer on its own. And I think, there's clearly a connection, a bonding between all of them that is sundered by the killer and this liminal space of a road, or time loop, whatever. I don't know. I think there's definitely something there that you could probably spend more time trying to figure out, but, I think there's something.
Yeah. What else is there? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Tyler.
I was going to get to the conclusion, so you can go ahead.
No, do it. You do it. It's your line. I didn't mean to step on it. I stepped on your line.
Wow. Any other final thoughts for this episode? Anything that anyone wanted to point out, or other conversations that they want to have?
I would love to do something like this again. I thought this was really fun. Mm-hmm. I had a great time. I don't know about you guys, but I thought this was fun.
Yeah, this was a blast. I like doing little spooky stories.
I think we should definitely talk about like creepypastas more often. I think that's a very rich mind that can be analyzed, and I don't think I think a lot of people share them like campfire tales, which is what they're intended to be on the internet. Mm-hmm. But if we analyze them and look for what's queer, because I know for sure that exists. There's queer people everywhere, so why wouldn't they write creepypastas? We could definitely have a lot of fun with that. And then maybe we'll do like some check-ins, because I know the Backrooms is still very, very popular, so maybe we could come back to that later. I think there's a lot of cool stuff on the internet amidst all the horrors. Well, horror things that are intentionally scary as opposed to the horrors of reality, which is unintentionally scary.
I really love amateur art, and I think that that's such a fun thing, like to everybody put their hands in the pot and see what rises to the top.
I mean, that's folk tradition, that's
Yeah.
what we
Yeah.
do as humans. And I think that's so cool that something that makes us kind of inhuman with the internet is what we're still able to find connection on. And it's not
That's
just
so
in
smart.
like the town square of ideas that Twitter initially was meant to be. Sometimes it's also just like on 4chan, which is bizarre. But
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's not. It is, 4chan was sort of the primordial ooze of the internet. It was everything, which
So
means
true.
that it was the worst things as well.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much for listening to this episode. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. 404 Joke Plug Not Found. Follow us on our social media feeds. We're at Fear Coded Pod on Instagram and Twitter.
Absolutely. This podcast is, of course, a proud part of the Glitterjaw Queer Podcast Collective. If you'd like to listen to more queer media podcasts, check out the full roster of shows at glitterjaw.com. And you can join us next time as we continue our October Spooktacular, where we will be celebrating Halloween all month long. Besides our normal bi-weekly media episodes, we're also having some more minisodes like this one in the off weeks, talking about shorter media. But next week, we're back to a full-size candy bar to talk about a 1931's Frankenstein. And don't forget, on the 31st, we're going to give you a special treat, and we're doing a Q&A episode. So if you have any questions that you've been dying to ask, please email us at fearcodedpod@gmail.com or DM us at our Twitter or Instagram handles. Submit your questions, please, by October 25th, because that's when we'll be answering them. We really can't wait to hear from all of you ghosts and ghosties out there. Until next time, then, we say goodbye.